Hello, Hannah. Thank you so much for joining us on the Avanti Fostering podcast. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Harry. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me. It's
you're
an honor to be here.
you're welcome. So, Hannah, you run Unplugged Tots. Can you let us know a little bit about the company and what you do?
So, Unplugged Tots, I originally had the idea back in 2018, would you believe? My family and I attended something called a Raspberry Pi festival.
Okay.
Um, it's all down to my husband, really. He's into his coding and his Raspberry Pi. So Raspberry Pis are these little kind of credit card sized computers. Are you familiar with them, Harry? Have
Yes,
you
I
heard
haven't
of
used one,
them?
but I've seen it. It looks very interesting. So, for people
It
that
is
don't
very
know and
interesting.
that are intimidated by IT or computers, can you tell me about it?
Mm. So essentially, they were kind of developed by a guy who called Eben Upton, and he wanted to get kids primarily into coding. So he started off life doing a lot of coding, did kind of corporate type stuff, and then ended up doing a helping Cambridge University with their computer science degrees, and realized that the applicants for computer science degrees they were just getting less and less, and it basically was not helped with the you can have I can't remember what they're called, the consoles and all of those kinds of things. So these people were consuming tech rather than kind of creating the tech. So he wanted to go right back to basics, started to build these little kits to help kids get into tech, get into coding, start creating their own entertainment. And well, Raspberry Pi is now, I think they had their 13th birthday this year. Um, so hubby and I went along to this festival back in 2018 with my two girls who were 2 and 4 at the time, and they were trying to do something on a Raspberry Pi using a program called Scratch or Scratch Junior. That is kind of an early introduction to coding. It's using block coding. There's lots of colors. It's very, very simple. You basically use um, pre-programmed blocks to tell a sprite, a little character, what to do and where to go around the screen. So it's kind of an early introduction to what people would kind of end up doing in their kind of later careers. So obviously 2 and 4, Harry, my kids couldn't read, they couldn't write, they couldn't type. And I think my mama bear came out and was like, this is not fair. Why can't my children do this? And I just, on the train back home, I was thinking, there's got to be a way, because they were desperate to learn, Harry. They were trying
Okay.
to kind of do some of this stuff. And I thought there's got to be a way to get my kids from kind of here, not knowing how to do some of this stuff, to kind of here.
Yeah.
And so on the train home, I was thinking, I know what kids like to do. They just like to play. And if I can marry up some of the core concepts that are applicable in these Scratch Junior, these kind of block coding type programs, marry those core concepts up to play and fun, and see how my kids go with it. And well, basically, they loved it. Got a couple more kids involved. They loved it. And then the local nursery found out, did a couple of sessions at the local nursery, and it's just kind of snowballed from there. So basically, I essentially help children learn pattern recognition, algorithms, sequencing through play-based activities.
What I also find really interesting is that you don't focus on screen.
In 2020. when we were in, in the midst of the pandemic and everything, and the girls were doing stuff online for all of the kind of online learning stuff, and I wanted them off. And it just reinforced this fact that screens are brilliant, but we need a balance. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I need to come off the screen and read a book and just do something
Yes. Yeah.
non-screen related. And
Yeah.
so as parents, we're kind of bombarded by all of this, your screens are
Yeah.
bad, but actually,
Especially for children being born at this time or in the
absolutely.
digital era where having a screen is all they know. And so
Oh, no,
it
no.
becomes very intuitive, it's very intuitive to them, it comes naturally to them. How did they respond to not being in a screen and playing? How did you find that? What was their experience from?
So I've been in nurseries, I've been in schools, and they are absolutely fine. It's just a different way of playing for them. And actually, what I see gives them more than just the skills I give them. I mean, so one of the key things that came out for me is there was a child in a particular school that I was working at, and she was nonverbal. So she couldn't communicate. And she was very, very nervous of new people. And I was there for a 6 week session. So the first 4 weeks, she wouldn't, sorry, the first 3 weeks, she wouldn't even look at me, wouldn't even kind of engage with any of the activities. And then the last week, she sat with me for about 10 minutes and actually sat kind of right beside me, started to look at what the other children were doing. And by the last week, she was there for the whole 3 hour session, sat beside me doing all of the activities because she felt, engaged, and she ended up communicating with me in her own way. And we had like this kind of mutual, kind of understanding. And that, oh, sorry, a little bit. That was a key moment for me because that
Yes.
meant that I was getting through to someone who is underrepresented in in our society. And so for me to have my activities actually talking to someone and allowing someone that voice has been hugely powerful to me. And it's just meant that it is making a difference what I'm doing. And it feels good. Feels really good.
It's fantastic. So at Avanti Fostering, we are big on education and educating our foster parents and really giving them a lot of information. So, not just about the typical aspects of caring for your foster child and caring for yourself. We've had and given our foster parents information regarding mental health, for example, looking after your physical health, budgeting as well. But hearing from you as in particular is quite interesting because the children in their care may be interested in coding or in technology. And this is a nice way for the foster parents to connect with the foster children. And it may even be something that they haven't considered before. So for our foster parents that are hearing this for the first time, what are some uh, important skills that you've seen the children develop, and how have the activities in particular helped the children to grow? Is it just academic, or have you seen their confidence grow, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the examples that I have, we were, oh, I've got him here actually. We had to navigate this little hedgehog. So the
Nice.
school that I was in have a forest school area.
Yeah.
So we have we had to navigate Henry the Hedgehog to his hibernation place. Obviously, that brought in elements of seasons and things like that. And in this forest school area, we had a fire. Obviously, the fire wasn't lit, but we had to pretend that Henry Hedgehog had to avoid the fire
Yeah.
because it was too hot. So it's things like the children were working together to make sure that we kept Henry safe. And actually, one of the key things that I found was there was a child that was helping another child not to talk, but to actually be heard, because all of the other children were talking over this particular child and said, hang on, wait, let whoever it was speak. And that, for me, as a parent, knowing that there's another child looking out for another child is brilliant. You know, that's not something that you teach at school. That advocacy is so important and will be so much more important as these children get older, because there are some people out there who don't want to raise their voices. And so sometimes they need someone else to help them do that. Um, Obviously, I'm not saying that's down to my activities by any stretch of the imagination, but it's nice that it happened on my watch. And one of the things that I loved to do with my children, and it's a really nice introductory activity, actually, if your parents want to do this, is pattern recognition, because that can help lead into lots of other areas of computational thinking. I don't know if you have kind of Lego blocks at home or pencil and a bit of paper.
Okay.
So you could get, so say your Lego blocks, you've got a red, yellow, and blue Lego blocks. You repeat the patterns, red, yellow, blue, red, yellow, blue. Or with color and pencil, do the same thing. And that's kind of literally it. These are computational thinking themes, but you're applying them to play-based activities. So that's a really, really simple introduction. And then there's even going for a walk. One of the things that my children like to do was to kind of learn their lefts and rights. They put your kind of your fingers up, and you've got your L for your left, and
Yeah.
obviously this is the right. And so I've still got a picture of my little one. She must have been about 6, and she's got her hands up like this, trying to
So
work out
cute.
which way to turn. It was cute. It's very cute. But those kinds of early skills are really, really useful, and they can be done at any point in time. They don't have to be done, sitting at a desk all kind of stuffy and, get out and about.
Fantastic. So, what would you say has been the most rewarding part of creating Unplugged Tots?
Oh, wow, that's a question. I think other than the child that I mentioned earlier, the non-verbal child, I think knowing that the impact that I'm having is going to be more far-reaching than I ever imagined. Um, it's more of a kind of a ripple, because these things are kind of slowly building up and up and up. And I don't know where these children that I've taught will end up. No one will know what careers they'll end up doing. But knowing that I've had a part in playing, in delivering some of the toolkit that they'll carry with them as they age, has been hugely rewarding. Hugely rewarding.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So I think those skills I think can be really beneficial, not just critical thinking, your imagination, also building your confidence. And it's something that the foster parents and the foster children can do together. And
Absolutely.
you can start to progress and improve your skills over time. And I think that can really help you as you get older, with the vast amount of subjects that students have to study. So I think that can really help with just working their brain.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think that's really good. So the parents and the foster parents that want to encourage more screen-free play at home. So you gave a really good example for using Lego and using the natural world. What other advice could you give parents that are looking to have some quality time without the screen?
I think, and I've been as guilty of this as any parent, is don't keep chasing that insta perfection. If we're trying to do crafts, oh, I've got another example here. Oh, I've got lots of examples, sorry.
That's okay.
Um, so we were doing Halloween masks
Nice.
at Halloween.
Yeah.
Now, clearly it's not particularly
Looks very scary.
Insta glamorous or anything, but
Yeah.
the girls had to work out what the order of sticking things down on was, and that's sequencing is another computational thinking thing. But they had to think, they had to use their logic. Right, I need to put a face on this, but the face needs to come on, the black eyes and mouth need to come on after I've stuck the orange bits for the pumpkin down. And then it's kind of the same with these things. These are like kind of little Christmas cards that are threaded through.
Yeah.
We have to follow the sequence of the wool going through the holes, in, out, in, out, in, out. And you have
Yeah.
to think about these things as well. But they're not perfect. But what they are is they're done with love, and they're done with a bit of time sat with me and my little ones over a cup of tea and a little chat, and we're there and we're busy working. And that, for me,
Yeah.
that connection, building that connection with my children is way more important than the academic side of stuff, because letting them know that they're loved and they're cared for means the world.
And also that they are inexpensive items.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that,
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of my things. That's kind of the other reason why I didn't want screens, because they cost money. You have to insure them, you have to store them, all this kinds of stuff. And I wanted to be part of breaking down that digital divide and having this idea where you don't need tech to teach tech. You
yeah.
can literally have some pipe cleaners and pens and some lollipop sticks and bits of paper and cards and wool, and you can create things, but you can learn about wider things than just the end result of a craft.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I think pre the digital era, a lot more children used to play
Yeah,
and spend time not only with each other, but exploring and creating games and using things from around the house, around the
yeah,
house or from nature. So I think that's brilliant. And then attaching that with learning these skills, which can be beneficial for them going into that digital
into.
era in the future.
Well, it's not going to go away, Harry. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah,
Tech is here to stay, and already, with the AI world that we're currently living in, we're going to have more of a symbiotic relationship with computers and technology and how it
definitely.
communicates with us and us with them. And
Yeah,
I think we need to be respectful of it and
yeah,
have a healthy respect and a healthy awareness, but know how powerful we as humans can be when we work together. And if we work together and then work together with technology, then what kind of world could we create for
yeah.
everyone?
I think having critical thinking, I think is going to be so important. You
Yeah,
mentioned AI. So, in the future, I think people can become more lazy and can just rely on AI to give them the
yeah,
answer. And being able to think critically, I think that's where a lot of progression in terms of jobs will be, because I
yeah,
think a lot of people are worried that AI will replace jobs, and I think in certain instances it will.
mm,
Um, but I think being able to use AI, knowing how to use AI, but being able to use it in a creative way and not just to take the answer at face value, I think is really important. And I think developing that from a young age, being able to
yeah,
analyze, being able to think, and I think these things are prevalent in any subject. For example, with music, with art, you're still thinking
yeah,
logically. And even in things like maths and coding, you're still being creative. So having this mindset from such a young age can really, really, really help you.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's one of the key things. I think the other thing is the idea of helping our children become the problem solvers, because I think we tend to, and I've got two girls trying to rush to get them out of the house, all this kind of stuff. I give them the solutions to problems when I perhaps shouldn't. Um, and actually, what we end up doing is not allowing our children to fail. and know what it's like to fail and know how to pick themselves up, dust themselves off, get back on, try again, fail, try again, and oh, something's good happened, you know? And I think giving them the confidence and the safe, nurturing environment at home to allow them the space to fail forwards
Yeah.
can also help them in the future. Because there's been so many brilliant things that have happened by like a mistake,
Yeah.
you know? And
Definitely.
yeah,
There's a
post-it notes. They were a mistake. I
yeah.
couldn't live without post-it notes now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this quote that I read, I love this quote. It's failure is growth.
Mm,
And so if you're not seeing any growth, but just keep failing and failing and failing, and
yeah,
eventually you will grow. So,
yeah. But I think there's lots of people who are scared about failure, and it's oh, I've got to tell you this. One of the things that I love to do was make icing on biscuits. So you know the icing sugar and then the water,
yes.
and the kids absolutely loved it because you know it's sugar. Um, but you make it too runny, and the kids it's all falling off, and they're laughing, and it's creating that association of oh, Hannah's made a mistake, but you know it's okay, it's fine. Um, and then we all work together to try and fix this by adding more icing sugar to make the right consistency.
Yeah.
So it's applying again the computational thinking skills of debugging and problem solving, and then kind of going back, taking those steps back and fixing the problems. And then, you know, they get a nice treat at the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's brilliant because I think that in terms of education, I think it has become gamified in some
Yeah.
instances. And I think in a way it's good because they are seeing, okay, kids love computer games. They can learn from these. You mentioned Scratch before. So if you're making a mistake, you can try a different sequence and try something else that's creative. But then also in a way, you're in front of a screen again and having that break away from the screen, thinking about the the real world objectively, thinking about how can I use these physical items, using your imagination,
Mm.
and then going back and playing these games. For example, with BBC Bite Size,
Yeah.
I see that they have a lot of games on there. So the games are good, but I think
Yeah.
having that, just developing that muscle of using
Yeah.
your imagination, I think is good. And in a way, it's a bit sad that we have to remind ourselves because it came naturally to us before
Mm. Mm.
screens. But like you said, it's not going away. Technology is not going away. So having that balance can only just help to develop their skills.
Yeah. I think also it's, you know, as I've said, screens are not bad, but I think it's about us being mindful and intentional about what screen use we're allowing our children. There was an excellent report by Dr. Fiona Aubrey-Smith where she kind of analysed there's basically three different types of screen use. There's the screen use where you are basically consuming, so you're watching telly, and there's you know no interaction. Then there's another one where you are doing like the games like BBC Bite Size or Times Tables Rockstar. So you've got the kind of the game element of the educational screen use, and then the third and final one is things like Scratch or you know what kids might end up doing, Python and things like that. Um, but it, I think the onus is on us as parents to manage appropriate screen use. And you know, I watch telly. That's my downtime. It's not like we're just completely not allowing our children to not watch telly, but it is about being mindful and intentional. And what I'm hoping for is that the activities that I have and that the parents will use almost gives a bit of permission to have this kind of guilt-free screen use thing. So, okay, I've played with my child and we've had fun for, well, they're set out to be kind of 5 minutes, but with my kids, they ended up being kind of an hour and a half by the time we ended up, you know, carrying on stuff, which it was never ever a problem. But it meant that if they said, Mum, can we watch telly now? I was like, yeah, actually you can because we've done something as an alternative to screen use. So I didn't have that mum guilt of, oh, my kids are in front of a screen all the time. There is that balance.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Hannah. I really appreciate it. I'll put a link to Unplugged Tots in the description for the video. But once again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Harry. It's been brilliant to talk to you.
Thank you, Hannah. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you, and you. Bye
Bye bye.
bye. Bye.